recording. Okay, we're all there? Okay. So the main thing I want to do today is go into talking about the HTML web page stuff for you guys for the lab and the homework that's due this week. So this would be a good time for you to let me know what things you are stuck on and need help with, or things you want me to explain better that the lab doesn't explain well, or whatever, because all I want to do today is make sure you guys are on the right track to be able to do the design the web page homework. Personally, I think this homework and lab are not as hard and weird as last week's, where you had to learn all those weird numbers for all those instructions and stuff like that. But the amount of stuff you have to write and create, and possibly the amount of time you have to put in to make the stuff all come out right, might be larger. So it's not as tricky stuff to deal with. It's not programming in the same way, but it is. You have to write 3 web pages, and you have to understand how the stuff works. You have to put text and things and images and stuff in those web pages. So I want to make sure you are all set to go, because this is kind of the last time I'm going to talk to you guys in a class before that lab and that homework is due. So, any questions or anything or comments or things you're stuck on about the web homework or anything really? I haven't graded the machine language homework because some people still haven't handed it in. But when they do, I will hand that back, and I'll hand out my answers to that homework as well, so you can see it. So when the final comes around, you'll at least have the right answers to those questions. Anyway, any questions about web stuff or anything? No questions because you're understanding it, or no questions because you're just so flummoxed that there's no way you can form a question to ask? I think I got my screen back. Woo. So I think I fixed that too, for all the good that'll do me. All right. So I guess what I want to do then is I want to walk you through kind of the steps of the lab, so that you can kind of see places where I think you might get in trouble, or things that you might not understand, or that sort of thing. So what I'm going to do is show you my web page, and we'll kind of edit my web page together so you can see things that are going on in it. So I'm now sharing my screen so you can see my Firefox window that ought to say up at the top, Sean McCullough's homepage. I wonder if I can Command plus this. There we go. So that the words get bigger. You guys can see that? Okay. So this is a little less bare than what you guys had to start with, but still way less information than what I want you to have when you're done with the homework. Okay. The thing to notice is up at the top. This is my address of my page. You would be, for your page, you'd be HTTP. All the beginning stuff is the same. go.owu.edu. All that's the same. The stuff after the twiddle, I've been saying, is like your ID or something like that. You can replace that with the ID, your email before the ID. Okay, first initial, middle initial, first, what is it, 6 letters of your last name. That's the standard OOBU thing. Okay. Now, when you go to view the source, I might have to share this window separately. So I'm not, actually, can you see the source window? I think you might be able to. With the HTML tags and stuff like that. Can you guys see that? Okay, cool. So again, this is more information than you might have on your page, but it looks kind of similar, right? It's the same things in angle brackets. Angle brackets. Remember, anything in an angle bracket is a command to the browser about how to show stuff. So when I tell you to save it, what I want you to do is to highlight all of the stuff in the source window, however you get it, copy it, and then open up a text program. I'm going to use Text Wrangler because that's just the one I happen to have on here. And I'm going to share that for you now. So stop that, share this guy. And what you ought to see, and I don't think it worked, is, yeah. Now, where did I go last time to make these lines bigger? Text display, show fonts. 36. Well, that's too big. How about 18? So, you guys can see that okay? The HTML stuff. So what I did was I pasted it, Command-C to copy, Command-V to paste, into this file. What I tell you to do in the lab is to save this as a file called index.html. Okay. The default, so remember the way web pages work, right? You have the address. I'm typing it in my box here. And so the HTTP is the protocol. The go.owu.edu is the name of the machine that we are going to. The tilde stmccul is the account on that server. And then everything after that is a file or a folder on that account. Okay, so it turns out that if you do not give the last part, if you do not give, there's going to be a lot of rapid fire sharing between screens today, I think. So I think it's better if I draw this, all right? So http://go.owu.edu/tilde stmccull, and I didn't plan ahead, so /file.html, okay? So what you got is this is the protocol you're using to communicate. And again, that's almost always going to be HTTP or HTTPS. This is the machine you're talking to. This is an account on that machine. And most places that you go to on the internet don't have anything with a tilde in it because they don't have separate accounts on the machine. It's just one machine for the whole place, and you go straight into the files and folders. A file on that account. Okay. So the rule is that if you just give them something like this, with no file listed out, no file named, okay? If you don't list out a file to use, the default is index.html. If you don't tell them what the file name is, the file name is assumed to be a file called index.html on that server, and that's what's used. Okay, so that's why when you went to your page, there was still something there, even though we didn't list out a specific file name ending in .html. That's why I tell you to save it as index.html when you save it, so that when you copy it back to the server, it's going to go to the place and have the same name as the thing that was there. It'll be the thing that shows up when you go to your account. All right. So when you get it, you get something. Let me get back to my this guy. And you get a bunch of stuff. Okay. This I'm gonna kind of annotate this as I go here. Okay. This tag says that this is an HTML document. The title, and this confuses people because the terminology is not the best. Okay, the title is the title of the tab when you browse to it. Okay, so it's not the title that goes on the page like in big text. Okay, so if I change this to It is an awesome dude. Then what that's going to change is not the screen itself, but it's going to change the title at the top of the tab, like when you switch between tabs or when you list it out at the bottom what the names of your pages are and that kind of stuff like that. Okay, and then you know what? I don't want to edit this, I guess is what I'm saying. So, and then in here, this is just awful. I'm going to make a new one. So I don't want to wreck my old page. So we had this. Oh, I can make this bigger, sorry. Let me say 18. 18 looks pretty good. I'm going to save this as a file called CS103 summer 17.html, mainly because I already have something called index.html that I don't want to ruin. We'll talk about how you're going to have different files of different names on the server as you go anyway. So HTML, the title. I typically put the things in the angle brackets, the tags that are for the HTML, in caps, so that it's easy to see it as different from the text of the page. And then I say body, which is this is where your regular text goes. Okay. The first thing to notice is that if I put two lines of text out like that, so the first line says this is where regular text goes, and the second line says this is the second line of text. And I'm going to save this. And now what I make you do in the lab is open up the file that this refers to. So what you do is you open up a new tab so you don't destroy the Hangout window. And then you go to File, Open File, and then you find where you saved it. And then you open the file. And I'm going to share this page with you in a second. But I can't because it's the same window as the Hangout window, so I will be right back. So I'm doing this in Firefox File. Go away. Somehow it opened up my email client. File, open file, find the page, open. So I'm gonna share this thing with you here in a second once I get back to you guys. So I'm going to stop sharing my HTML file. I'm going to start sharing my Firefox window if I can find it. And so what you're going to get, I don't know if you can you see my tabs up here? I don't know if you can because they're really small and they're off the top of the screen. But at the top of the tab where my mouse is, it says this is the title of the tab. Okay, that's the thing that's what the title tag does. Okay, it changes that. It doesn't change anything on the page. Okay, the second thing to notice is that even though I put the 2 lines that I put, this is where your regular text goes, and this is the second line of text, on separate lines of the HTML file, they show up all on the same line of the web page when I load it. Okay. The reason for that is, remember we talked last time about how HTML is not a what you see is what you get kind of language. So if you want things like extra blank lines or underlining or bold or whatever, you have to do it yourself. Okay, so the way you do that, let me go back and share the editor. Okay, is, well, there's 2 ways. One way, if you just want to go directly on one line below, you can put in a BR. BR stands for break the line. Okay, and so a BR is like hitting enter on a word processor. You go straight to the next line. So if I save this and load it, I wish there was a way for me to like share my entire screen rather than share individual things that I've got to bounce between 8 million times, but here we are. So this is the old version of the file. I haven't reloaded it yet. If you want to reload it, you can go File, Open File, all that over again, or the reload circle arrow thing here also reloads the page like that. Okay, so now you see how the second line of text moved down to the second line, right below the first line. That's what BR does. Okay, BR says, give me a break between the lines, kind of just like hitting enter on a keyboard does for most things normally. Okay, so the other way to do it, and I'll show you this too, is there's a tag called P. P is meant for paragraphs. Okay. So it starts a new paragraph. The difference between a BR and a paragraph is a BR goes right below, and a paragraph adds extra kind of buffery space between them, kind of like different paragraphs in a Word document or something like that would, where you have some space between your paragraphs. And so if I load this, it moves down. And the reason it moves down is because I made it as a separate paragraph rather than a BR for the next line. Okay, so what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to try to keep a running commentary on the writing here of all of the HTML commands I talk about and what they're good for, so that so you can look this up and kind of have a reference when we go. Okay, so we know about title, which was the title of the tab. We know about go to the next line, and I'm saying that's like hitting enter. And then there's P for paragraph. Start a new paragraph. With blank space between them. All right. It's also worth mentioning that some tags have ending tags to mark where you're done with stuff. So the title needs an ending tag to mark where you're done with the title. Otherwise, it would put every single thing you write all as the name of the tab, and that's not what you want. Other things like these guys, because all they do is kind of one simple thing. You don't need an ending tag for these because there's nothing to end. Okay, things that are wrapped on both sides by start and end tags are usually things that have a bunch of text that has a starting point and an ending point, like the title of the tab. Things that are just do something tend to not. Okay, all right. So far, so good. Any questions on the stuff so far? While I go back to the editor. Good so far. Okay. All right. So you yell out and stop me if you want me to explain something more, because there's a lot of stuff. When you want to make text, so personally I use the header tags. So this is one of the things I make you do in the lab. Is I use the H tags as showing you ways you can change the format and the style of the stuff on the page. Okay, and H1 makes a big honkin' header of a page, and there's H2. Which is a little bit smaller, and it goes all the way down to I think H6. So what this is going to do, once I save, and remember you have to save the file before you reload it, okay? So once I save it, and then once I reload it in the web browser, what I'm going to get is all 6 of those headers, all kind of decreasing size and boldness. Okay, so here I go. And so you can kind of see how the first one's really big, and then it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. I'm not sure header 6 is a header at all. Let's just look how tiny that is. But it's worth noticing, first of all, I did not have to use a P tag after each of these, right? The header by itself is meant to be on a line by itself, so when you close the header tag, it automatically takes you to the next line. Secondly, this is one of those tags that I have to close, right? I have to have a closing tag to mark where the end of the stuff I want to be in the header is, all right? So, going back to the writing, we have, oops, I don't want that in red. H1 ... H6 headers, and then you have to end H1 ... down to ending H6. Okay, so that's one way to make your stuff on your page look different. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. The stuff that shows up on the page looks very, very unlike the stuff you're typing in the text editor. Right? It's not like Microsoft Word or something like that, where bolding or underlining something or making a big header in your Word document is going to make it show up that way. And when you're done, they're different. It's a different system. Okay. All right. If you want to make, let's try something else, just to show you a couple of other formatting things. This is how you do bold text. So the B tag makes things bold. It's U. Don't forget the BR if you want these on separate lines. Oops. Not slash U at the beginning. Slash means end. So if I did this right, we'll find out in a second. The B tag starts here and ends here and surrounds the word bold, so that should show up in bold. The U tag starts here and ends here and surrounds the word underlined. And on this third line, the bold and underlined are both surrounded by both tags, so it ought to show up both bold and underlined. Okay, so save. Let's see what happens if we switch over and reload. Ta-da. Okay, so only the stuff that was inside the tags got bolded or underlined or whatever. But you can have two tags underlining both. The underlining is a bit weird. Notice how, I don't know if you can see it, but there's that little bit of underlining after the line ends. That's because I have a space before the closing tag, and that matters for the underline. So you can fix that by removing the space, that kind of stuff. All right, so that's basic formatting stuff. Let me take you back to the writing so I can write about this. There are many, many others out there. The lab talks about some of them. U is underline. I think there's an EM for emphasis. Which means italics. And there's a whole bunch more. The lab talks about some of them. If you look up any of these kind of big lists of HTML tags, you'll get all kinds of blinking text and strike-through text and stuff like that. That can make your stuff look as cool or as irritating as you'd like it to be. All right, so what else? Let's do links, because links I think screw up people sometimes. So I want this text. Well, I want this text after I add a paragraph in between them. I want this text to have a clickable link to the Ohio Wesleyan. How do I spell that right? Ohio Wesleyan webpage. Okay. So remember, the way you do a link is you say A. Okay. A is the tag that means a link. It stands for anchor, because you're anchoring another page to your page by creating a link between them and stuff like that. It's unfortunate that there is a tag on your page that's called link that does not actually create a link. So A is what you want. Okay, in all ways in life. So then you say href equals. HREF stands for hypertext references. The H in HTML stands for hypertext markup language. Hypertext is text with links, and markup language is one of these languages that we're using that has tags to define formatting instead of formatting to define formatting. So quote, and then the link let's do this, that you want to go to, okay? All of this stuff is sitting inside the angle brackets of the tab, okay? And one of the things that people run into trouble with is you have to make sure, somebody had this problem happen today, you have to make sure that the quote marks in the quote are regular, up and down, straight quotes, okay? They cannot be the fancy formatted angle quotes. I don't know if you can tell the difference, between the angle quotes and the straight quotes, but they really need to be going up and down, not tilted at an angle. Okay, tilted at an angle is not the kind of quotes the web browser is expecting, and it's going to give you some really bizarre things when you click the link. Okay, so a link has kind of three parts. It has the A, it has the stuff inside the angle brackets that define where you want to go when you click the link. Then it has the stuff that will be clickable, the stuff that will be blue and underlined. And then the way you say, I need the end of that clickable stuff, is you have the closing tag for the link, the /A that ends the link. Okay, so I'm going to write this down and break it down into pieces for you. But the idea is the three parts are the stuff in quotes saying where you're going to go, the stuff in between the tags that says what your page is going to have that's clickable, and then the ending /A, which says, and now we're done with the stuff that's clickable. Okay, let me get rid of that space just in case. Okay, so now if I save this and I load this page, so this is the page from before. I'm going to reload it, and now what you can see is you have this line, and it shows up purple. Purple is the default link you have visited before color. So I've visited the OWU page before, and so this is why it's in purple. But everything that's colored purple here is clickable. You see the mouse turns into a finger, and then if I click it, I will get sent to the Ohio Wesleyan page. Ta-da! Okay. So going back to, I'm going to draw this out into pieces here. The anatomy of a link, the hypertext, that's ugly, a hypertext link. A href equals that. All of this, I'm going to write this in red so you can see it's different. A means it's a link. This is where to go when you click the link. And then let me redraw it down here with smaller. That's a whole link. Okay. This is the part that's clickable. This is the ending tag. And what the ending tag is doing is it marks the end of the clickable section. Okay, so all of that's a link. Okay, So when you're making the homeworks, especially the homeworks, the labs you can play around with whatever you want. But one of the benefits of doing web stuff instead of just regular word processing stuff is that you can add these links to things. Okay, and so having links that are incorporated in whatever you write that point you to the stuff you're talking about is useful. So hi, my name is Sean McCullough. I'm a huge fan of the New York Yankees. I would make the New York Yankees parts clickable and point you to the Yankees homepage or something like that. You can incorporate links out and links to other places into the text you're writing, so it's not just a wall of text. It also has links to places to give more information or that sort of stuff. All right. So let's see. What else should I do? Oh, the other thing that we want you to do is have images. Okay. So the first thing you need to do if you're going to have an image is find an image. What I suggest you do if you don't have it, so one thing you can do is load up a picture you've taken of yourself, of your friends, or whatever, right? The next thing you can do is go to images or images.google.com. This is the Google image search, and then you can search for whatever you want. I'm going to search for the word awesome and see what happens. Awesome. Freaking awesome. All right, so, and then you take an image you want and you steal it. Okay. Usually you steal it by right-clicking or command-clicking and saving the image as, and then the tricky part of this, I don't know if you guys can see the pop-up window that pops up on me here. Probably not. That's not how these things tend to work. But you want to give it a name that ends in JPG or whatever the file format is. My pop-up window that popped up says this format is a .jpg format. You want to make sure when you save the file, you end the file name in that format, because most computer stuff uses the name of the file part after the dot as a way of figuring out what kind of file it is. And so you want to add that information to make sure, like just like we said, .html is an HTML document. This is going to be .jpg probably. It might be .gif depending on what picture you get for your document. Okay, so yeah, you can't see the pop-up window. You can see the images page though, right? I wonder. Oh, you can't even see that, really? How about that? Can you see the pop-up window now? Okay. So this is what pops up for me. Again, this is because I'm using Firefox on a Mac, so it might be slightly different for you. But I want to give it the name of a file that I'll remember on my drive. I want to save it someplace I'll remember on my drive, and I'm actually going to change where it goes, because how do I? I really hate Macs. How do I tell it to go to? There it is, documents. That's where all my other stuff is. And I want to put the ending. That's the ending of the format they tell me it is. Okay, that's part of the file name. That's important. Okay, so I'm going to save this file. I'm going to call it unicorn.jpg. I'm going to save it, and it's now sitting on my drive in the exact same folder as my HTML file. Okay, that's important. You don't want them all. You don't want them two different places on your hard drive. You want it in the exact same folder as your HTML document. So if I go to my Finder, let me share that with you, so you can all snoop at what cool stuff I have on my hard drive. Inside my documents, I have, this is the HTML file that this is the HTML file that we've been editing. Okay. And down here, this is the image file I just saved. Okay, They're both in the same folder. In my documents folder, my downloads folder, in a separate folder you make for your CS stuff. I don't care as long as it's all the same folder. Okay. Now, the way we're going to use this is we're going to go back to our editing of the HTML file. Okay. Start a new paragraph. And then say, this is an awesome unicorn. This is an awesome unicorn picture. The tag for an image is IMG. And kind of like the A for the link, the source of the image is all part of the tag inside the angle brackets. And then you give the entire name of the image file, including the .jpg or whatever it is at the end. This is why it's important as the name of the image. Okay. So and I think in the lab I make you add alt data and stuff like that, which is what happens when you hover the mouse over it. But this is the meat of it. Okay. So now if I save this, if I did this all correctly, if I save this and I go back to the browser, wherever I put it in my big list of stuff here. Oh, it was that. Go back to this, and then reload the page. Make sure I present this to everybody. And then reload the page. This is my awesome unicorn picture. And it loads, okay? If this doesn't load, okay, the most likely reason is that you either have the name of the file wrong, probably because you forgot the extension one place or another, or because it's not in the same folder, okay? So, so when I write this out, oops. Obviously, you would not want to call your image unicorn.jpg unless it was a unicorn picture. You would use whatever name it has, right? But name of the image file, it needs to be in the same folder as your HTML document. Okay. The reason why it showed up is because when I gave the name here, it assumes that the name of the thing you're looking for is in the same folder as the web page itself. If it's not going to find it. So the two reasons usually images don't load is, number one, you got the file name wrong one way or another, and the second reason is you put it in the wrong place. They're not in the same folder. So most browsers by default, if you don't tell it to change its mind, are going to save your stuff in like some downloads folder. So you're going to need to make sure you get these images out of the downloads folder and put them where your HTML file is. Okay, so make sure you do that. All right. So the last big thing I want to show you is how to take this and put it on the server. Now, everything I've done so far, I've loaded by going to the browser and doing either reloading, but you see how up here, I don't know if you can see it up in the name of the link, but it'll say file colon / up here, and what the file colon says is the protocol for this is read the web page that's on your hard drive, not on the internet. Okay, if I try to go to http:// and go to my web page, and the name of my file is CS103 summer 17, I think. Is that what they named it? Yes, .html. I get nothing, or I get the default taking me back to the home page because I couldn't find the page. Okay, which I really, really, really hate that our system does this, and it takes you someplace else when it gets a bad link rather than giving you an error. I hate that because it means I can't because when I try to do this, let me share my frustration with you because you're going to feel this frustration, I think, yourself in a little bit. So I go through all the work to type out this whole thing. I type out my web address. I type out the summer 17 HTML. I hit enter, and I get told it's not a real thing, and I get sent to the OWU homepage by default. And now my link is gone, and now I can't even back arrow to the thing I typed. I can't fix it. I got to type the whole stupid thing over again. So it annoys the heck out of me that they do this, but nobody asked, so here we are. Anyway, what you're seeing, and the reason why it doesn't show up on my account on the web server yet, is because we didn't put it on the web server yet. Okay, so that's the point of that FileZilla program. Okay, so give me a second and let me start up my FileZilla here, and then I'll share the screen so you can see what I have. It's asking to install a new version. I'm going to say no, thank you. So this is my FileZilla. It's the program I think you ought to use to share the stuff on a Mac. The Windows has the WinSCP. It's very, very similar. So you hit the does this work? I think you have to go to File, New Connection, right? Site Manager. Yeah. Go to ODU.edu, I have the user, I'll let it ask me for the password. This is all showing up in a pop-up window you can't see. I got it from the site manager. I make sure the host is go to ODU. I make sure the user is me. And then I say connect. It will ask me for my password. It will throw a warning that I ignore because I trust the site. And then the stuff on the right is my account on the server. Okay, so remember from last time that every web document lives in this, I'll make it big so you can see it, in this public HTML folder. Okay, every single thing you put on the server has to go in the public HTML folder or will never, ever, ever be seen by anyone. Okay. You can, and I do, make folders inside the public HTML folder to hold different things. For example, if you want to have your your homework has to go on the web page so it can be seen by me, right? And there's no way for us to make it visible to me and not to the rest of the world. So if you don't want your homework to be seen by the rest of the world as your default page, then what you can do is make a folder, throw all your stuff in the folder, and send me the link to the front page of the folder, and it won't get found by search engines and stuff like that because it won't have a way to get at you from the generic Ohio Wesleyan tree of names. Some people like doing that because they have their own homepage they don't want to mess up. Some people do that because they don't want to have their stuff out there. If that's your kind of person, I would say put it all in a separate folder, and we'll talk about how to make that work. It's not hard. Anyway, so what I have is I have my HTML file. I have my public HTML folder clicked over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag the HTML file from this side over to that side, see the plus? And it gets copied over. You see it up here. It says file transfer successful. And if I look around on the stuff on the server, I have a file called CS103 Summer 17 HTML. So what this means now is if I go back to the browser, and And this intentionally is missing something. So if you're saying, hey, wait, you forgot something, you're right, I did forget something, but I want to do this part first. Okay. Go back to the browser and then type in the address again. Go.olu.edu. CS103 summer 17 HTML, and then click it. Now it loads everything. I don't know why it's bigger than what I had before, but you can always change the font size of the browser. Everything loads. The link is good, except the picture didn't load. That's the file one. This is the one that's my actual page here. The picture didn't load, and I don't know if you can see it, kind of this little square with like a broken page inside of it. That's the I don't know how to load this image. I don't have a link to the name of the file that works correctly error. And the reason why the loading the page this way, this is the file way, worked, and loading the page this way didn't, is because this HTML file is on the web server in my public HTML folder. And remember our image link, the rule was the image has to be in the exact same folder as the page that was talking about it. So we did not yet put the image in the exact same folder on the web server, right? I have to go back to FileZilla, and I have to find my unicorn picture on this side, and I have to drag the unicorn picture over to the other side. And once that loads, you'll see it down here on the bottom, and now it's in the same public HTML folder as everything else. And now when I go back to my browser and go back to my browser, I said, and reload the page, I get my unicorn picture. Hooray. Okay. So the important thing to remember about putting stuff on the server is you have to put everything on the server. Okay. So don't forget to bring the images over. If some people sometimes like to put videos and stuff like that on it. Don't forget to drag that over. If you plan on putting a lot of stuff on the server, you need to be careful because there's a quota. It's something like 50 megabytes of stuff you can put on the server total. So don't go over that limit, or basically you won't be able to save anything you write ever again, and you might lose the stuff you have. So be very careful you don't put too much data on there. If you really are desperate to have more than 50 megabytes of awesomeness on your web server, let me know and we can try to work something out. But I don't think you should need to do that for the homework. So one thing that's worth mentioning is one of the benefits of this markup language, instead of a regular what you see is what you get kind of thing, is that the reason they do it this way is that they don't know how big your browser window is, right? So I can make my browser window really thin and things automatically resize to fit whatever size I have. I can make my text really, really big. That's probably the max my browser lets me get. And it all automatically resizes. So the reason why the HTML format has this, you have to specify lines and you have to specify bold and stuff like that, is so that the browser can automatically make things fit whatever size window it's put in. So I'm telling you that partially because sometimes people get mad at me for making them do HTML, and why do I care about it? I think it's still important to see what's going on underneath the internet and learning about how that works. And HTML is a part of that. And also, when you're writing your homeworks, it's probably worth experimenting to make sure that if you resize your browser window at least a little bit, you don't totally ruin the way the thing looks. Okay? because there's absolutely no guarantee that the size of the window I'm going to use when I'm looking at your homework is the same size as the size of the window you're using when you're writing the homework. All right. So that's what I got for today. Anything else you want to see or talk about with the HTML or the web stuff? I think it'd be worth doing to kind of give you an overview of what the labs and the homework is asking you for, so you can see it in action working. And you can go over this video again if you ever get stuck with anything. Any questions on this stuff? Anything? Hopefully this was helpful. Um, I don't know. Yes, no, maybe. You're smoking crack. Okay. Any questions you wanted me to look at? Okay, so please do start working on the lab and the homework sooner rather than later, because as you can see, there's going to be a lot of going back and forth between making this work, and there's a lot of other commands you're going to want to learn and play with. These are the important ones, but there's other ones around, lists and things like that, that you can play with to make your web page look good. I want to see some, pretty cool things that you guys made when the homework's due on Tuesday, and then next week we're going to start something entirely different. You get to make games, which I think is fun, and we'll go on from there. All right. If there's not any questions, then I'll see you guys next week. Good luck on the homework. Email me early and often. I will. Thanks. See you guys.